Welcome to the Deep Dive.
Glad to be here.
Today we're looking at, well, a pretty big shakeup in the space world, specifically around who's leading NASA.
Yeah, there's an article from The Guardian we're using as our source today. And our goal, our mission, if you like, is to really unpack why Jared Isaacman, the billionaire private astronaut, why his nomination for NASA administrator was pulled.
Right. Seemingly right out of the blue, just before the confirmation vote was supposed to happen.
Exactly. And we're sticking strictly to what this Guardian article reports about the whole situation and what it might mean for NASA going forward.
Okay, let's get into it then. The news dropped pretty recently. President Trump announced online, basically, that he was withdrawing Isaacman's nomination. And the reason he gave, get this, after a thorough review of prior associations.
Very vague, right?
Very vague. And the article really emphasizes that this caught a lot of folks in the space industry completely by surprise.
It certainly seems like it did. So maybe we should quickly cover who Jared Isaacman is, for anyone less familiar.
Good idea.
The article describes him, as you said, billionaire private astronaut. Also the former CEO of Shift4. That's a payment processing company.
And here's a key part, isn't it? His connection to Elon Musk and SpaceX. It's significant.
Absolutely. The source calls him Musk's pick for the job and points out he spent, hundreds of millions with SpaceX as an early private customer. A lot of money.
Yeah, that's a substantial link.
And another background point, the article notes his political donations. Apparently, he's donated to Democrats in past elections.
Okay, so that's Isaacman. Now, the timing of this withdrawal, it's just really something.
It really is. We're talking just days, literally days before a Senate confirmation vote. A vote that had already been delayed, mind you.
So it wasn't like this was months away. It was imminent.
Right. Which explains why, as the article says, the surprise factor was, so high in the space community.
So back to Trump's explanation. After a thorough review of prior associations, and he also said he'd announce a new nominee soon, someone who is mission-aligned and put America first in space.
Yeah, but the article makes a point of saying that neither Trump nor the White House gave any more specifics. No elaboration on what those prior associations actually refer to. Just silence on the details.
Which naturally leads to speculation, especially when you consider the Elon Musk angle again.
Right.
The timing is, again, quite interesting. This happens just days after Musk himself formally left his role at the White House.
Yes, the article mentions Musk had this position, a special government employee who's leading this Department of Government Efficiency, which apparently got the nickname Doge.
Doge, okay.
And the piece suggests this role. It caused some friction, some turbulence within the administration, frustrating some Trump aides, apparently.
Okay, so Musk leaves, then Isaacman's nomination gets pulled. How did Musk react, did the article say?
It did. Citing someone familiar with his reaction, it says Musk was reportedly disappointed. He also went public on X, praising Isaacman, called him rare to find someone so competent and good-hearted. High praise.
So, if we're reading between the lines, based only on what the article presents, could these prior associations have something to do with Musk? Either his recent, maybe rocky departure from the White House role, or maybe Isaacman's very close ties, and crucially, his huge spending with SpaceX.
Well, the article certainly hints that way. It explicitly states that some lawmakers already had concerns specifically about Isaacman's relationship with Musk and SpaceX, largely because of those massive financial dealings.
So that concern was already there, even before the withdrawal.
Exactly. It provides some context for what those associations might possibly point towards, based on the reporting.
And what about Isaacman himself? How did he respond to his nomination being withdrawn?
He put out a public statement, said he was incredibly grateful to Trump and his supporters. He also mentioned gaining a much deeper appreciation for the complexities of government.
Interesting.
Yeah, and he added that despite, the discourse and turbulence, he sees many competent, dedicated people in government. Quite diplomatic.
Okay, so Isaacman is out. What does the article say about who might be next? Is there a name floating around?
There is one name mentioned as a potential replacement. Retired U.S. Air Force Lieutenant General Stephen Quast.
Quast. And what's his background, according to the source?
He's described as someone who was an early supporter and advocate for creating the U.S. Space Force. and also noted as a Trump supporter.
Okay, so whoever gets the nod, they're stepping into a pretty challenging situation at NASA, aren't they? The article outlines some big ones.
Oh, absolutely. Huge challenges. The next administrator has a lot on their plate. First off, just implementing NASA's strategy. There's the existing Artemis program focused on the moon.
Right, the multi-year plan already in motion.
Exactly. But there's also pressure, which Isaacman himself acknowledged apparently, to shift focus more towards Mars. Isaacman's view was reportedly to try and do both, but sorting that out needs clear leadership. That's challenge one.
And then there's a money situation. Always a factor.
A massive factor right now. The article talks about navigating potentially drastic budget cuts. It specifically mentions details from the Trump administration's 2026 budget plan, proposing to literally eliminate dozens of space science programs and lay off thousands of employees.
Wow. That sounds significant.
Yeah, the article quotes space advocates and lawmakers calling the plan devastating. Strong word.
Devastating. Okay, so strategy debates, potential huge budget cuts. What else?
Politics, of course. Managing the inherent political turbulence, dealing with Congress, the White House, internal NASA workforce dynamic. It's a constant balancing act.
Sounds like a pressure cooker. How did others react to Isaacman being pulled? The article mentioned some reactions, right?
It does. There was definitely support for Isaacman. It quotes Tim Sheehy, the Republican senator from Montana.
Okay.
She called Isaacman a strong choice, said he was proud to introduce him at his confirmation hearing, and that he strongly opposed efforts to derail his nomination. So, clear support there.
And what about from the scientific community? Any perspectives mentioned?
Yes. Jonathan McDowell, the astronomer at Harvard-Smithsonian. He's quoted viewing this change as further destabilizing to NASA.
Destabilizing? Why specifically?
Especially now, he suggests, with the agency facing these potential massive budget cuts and needing, stable leadership to handle the political fallout.
He had a memorable analogy too, didn't he?
He did, yeah. McDowell apparently called being the NASA administrator right now a bit of a Kobayashi Maru scenario.
Huh. The no-win scenario from Star Trek. That paints a picture.
It certainly does. Captures the feeling of an impossible task, maybe.
Did McDowell have a final thought on Isaacman specifically?
Yeah, his reported take was that not having Isaacman as the boss is probably bad news for the agency. But maybe a good thing for Jared himself, though. Kind of wry observation on the difficulty of the job right now.
Right. Spared him the Kobayashi Maru, perhaps?
Perhaps. So if we pull all this together from the article, what we have is this sudden withdrawal, the vague prior associations reason, all creating a lot of uncertainty for NASA's leadership right when it faces major decisions on strategy and potentially severe budget cuts.
Yeah, and clear divisions in how people are viewing this move and its potential impact.
Exactly.
Okay, that really was a deep dive into a fast-moving situation. We've covered the key points from the source, Isaacman's surprise withdrawal, the fuzzy reason given, the Musk connection and how that might play in.
And the huge challenges ahead for NASA, the budget, the strategy debates between Moon and Mars, the politics.
And the mixed reactions, from strong support for Isaacman to concerns about instability.
And just to reiterate, our entire discussion here has been based solely on the information presented in that Guardian article.
Right. So maybe a final thought to leave our listeners with. Given everything we've just discussed, the strategic choices, the budget cliff potentially, the political environment described in the article, what does this whole episode suggest about bringing people with really strong private sector backgrounds and connections into top government roles?
Yeah, and maybe what kind of qualities are truly essential for leading NASA through this particular turbulent period? Something to think about.